Early August rolled around, and I got a call from David Miller. I had just come back from vacation, and he told me, to my surprise, that we would have enough signatures to turn in on August 2nd. I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. But it was at that point that I knew that we were now going to enter the second phase of the battle. Historically, we know that typically 40% or more of signatures are invalidated. And we had also been told repeatedly through the media that our opponents planned on filing lawsuits in every county of the state if they had to, and that ultimately the decision would probably be one that was made by the Ohio Supreme Court. Phil was undaunted. I had just told him that most likely 50% of the signatures that they had just turned in would be invalidated for one reason or another, either by the boards of elections or as a result of the litigation. And that most likely he would need to collect another 150,000 signatures in just a couple of short weeks. In typical Phil fashion, he took it in stride, he picked up the phone, he called his steering committee, and he instructed them to keep the troops in the field and to collect another 150,000 signatures. And that's exactly what they did. Just as we'd anticipated, within a couple of weeks after we turned in our signatures, our opponents filed lawsuits throughout the state, as many as 37 different counties. Ultimately, our opponents filed lawsuits in the Court of Appeals. We had a hearing before Ken Blackwell in the Secretary of State's office, and in the end it pinnacled with a case in front of the Ohio Supreme Court, just as we had thought from the very beginning. And with all the glory to God, that court decided in our favor that the marriage amendment would appear on the ballot on November 2nd, 2004.
As the state's chief election official, it was my responsibility to make sure that the petition process was carried out in accordance with the state constitution. On August 3rd, 91 days before the general election, the Ohio Campaign to Protect Marriage delivered to my office over 400,000 signatures on the approved petition. Let me tell you, they also delivered over 30,000 new registration forms. That was amazing. On a personal note, I was already impressed with what had taken place. If they had asked me early on if they could conduct a successful petition drive in that time frame, I would have told them that that was next to impossible.
So here we are in the middle of September, our place on the ballot still uncertain, hinging on the state Supreme Court, and we still had no plan to get the vote out. The church had been our primary source for signatures, so obviously they would be our primary source for getting the vote out as well. And Phil came up with this idea to prepare a church bulletin. We would send it out to 17,000 churches statewide, eventually 2.75 million bulletins. The problem was we needed them yesterday.
Well, by that time we'd taken impossible out of our vocabulary. I got on the phone with Henry Sester, president of Ketmoy Printing, and told him exactly what we needed to do. 2 hours later, he called me back and told me that he had made arrangements with his staff to work around the clock throughout the weekend in order to make that happen for us. And by golly, that's exactly what he did.
Phil came to me and said, I have a favor to ask. Will you be the spokesperson on an automated phone call that will reach hundreds of thousands of Ohioans? I knew that I might be criticized by the opponents of the amendment, but I also knew that I had two responsibilities and that I was determined to carry them out faithfully. First, I had a responsibility to oversee the petition process, and I did it, and I did it honestly. Secondly, I was determined to do everything within my power to protect the divine truth of marriage as a union between a man and a woman. I did those phone calls, and I was delighted to be able to encourage Ohioans to vote yes on Issue 1.
Those opposing the amendment ran a scare tactic campaign, spreading fear that amending the Constitution to protect marriage would have negative consequences on senior citizens, on unwed mothers, on the state's economy, and on a host of others. In the end, the truth won out.
CCV did it. And you remember the final results. There was a victory cheer in Ohio in response to the marriage amendment. It just went out like ripples and waves in a pond, engulfing the nation with joy and relief. So I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to partner with CCV and my friend Phil Burrus in this historic battle.
3,239,250 Ohio citizens, many of whom had not voted for years, showed up at the polls to vote yes on Issue 1, the Marriage Protection Amendment. As many had anticipated, the presidential election did hinge on Ohio's 20 Electoral College votes. Whoever won Ohio would win the presidential race. By fewer than 130,000 votes, President George Bush won the state of Ohio and therefore was elected to his second term.
In a very short period of time, he gathered all of the signatures needed, working with others all across that state, to get over 500,000 signatures to get this onto the ballot on Election Day, which generated just enough extra turnout among Christians that it not only passed the marriage amendment overwhelmingly, but it also sent George W. Bush back into the White House. That is the type of people that we are working with in our family policy councils. Phil has been recognized for a number of awards in the area of working against pornography, to clean up indecency. His wife, Vicki, is also an accomplished and recognized pro-family leader who chairs she is the national coordinator of the Victims of Pornography campaign, and two of them together, they make the enemy run. And we're so glad that they're on their side. Phil, would you please come forward?
As Phil and I sat there, we thought of the staff and the volunteers that came in and worked long, hard hours and Saturdays to process the petitions. We thought about the moms and the dads that gave up their Saturdays to go to fairs and collect signatures. We thought about the men and women that worked long, hard days in their careers and then left home and worked till late in the night to gather signatures to make this a reality.
This is truly a humbling experience, and I want to take the couple minutes that I have to share with you how this happened, because I was just a tool to be used by God that called me to place this issue on the ballot. But before I start, the first person I want to recognize is my wife, who stood by me through these many months. And when she was staring me right in the face and talking to me when I didn't hear what she was saying because I was thinking about the next phase of the campaign, she still loved me. May 17th, you'll remember that day in Massachusetts when they started marrying same-sex couples. I was in denial. I didn't think it was going to happen. So on May 18th, I called into my office my staff and attorneys from the Alliance Defense Fund. And I said, what do we have to do to protect marriage in Ohio? They said, you got 168 days before the election. You have to collect over 300,000 signatures. Everyone said it was mission impossible. It couldn't be done. But I knew that God was calling me to do it. My staff, my board, our supporters, I thank you. They deserve part of this award. The prayer warriors, the thousands of them across the state of Ohio that went to their knees to pray for success. The 6,000 volunteers who circulated petitions. 557,000 signatures. The people that signed those petitions are deserving of this award with me. Secretary of State Kim Blackwell, he was the first one I called. I asked Kim, would you be our spokesman? He said, absolutely, I'll stand beside you for the family. Pro-family groups across the state of Ohio that I called on, more than 18 of them to stand with me. They were my steering committee. 39,000 Amish who said, we never vote, but we're not going to set this one out. They registered to vote, and they voted. Let me move on to the big three, though, that I have to share this award with. Focus on the family. 80,000 petitions they mailed to their constituents in the state of Ohio. They said, anytime you want to go on the radio, we're here for you, and they did it. Alliance Defense Fund. We were sued 42 times in 40 different counties. And last but not least, Family Research Council's Action C4 organization. Let me quote something from you from the Boston Globe that ran right after the election. Boston Globe said on May 18th, John Kerry's fate was sealed in a meeting in Cincinnati, Ohio, when Issue 1, the marriage amendment, went on the ballot. Thank you very much. Thank you for this award. God bless you.